you in the center. Well, whatever you.
Well, actually,
this is your show. Whatever.
you know, the center's not a bad place. I'm a centrist type guy anyway.
Yeah, that would.
See, Kevin wanted to take control.
No. Be on the perimeter. When we do leave.
I was violently looking for a cup of coffee, but I got a cup, and I got 6 drops of one and 6 drops of another.
Well, Chancellor, you're not going to jump up and go to the bathroom. You got to leave us, right?
Very little.
Hey, Harold. How you doing? Good seeing you. You're good. Interesting HVAC in here. If you go into the bathroom, it's like subarctic. But then right now, it's warmer than walking into this room.
Subarctic. That's not where you want subarctic in the restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Well, good morning. I'm Ted Connor, work with the Durham Chamber of Commerce. I'm honored to be serving as the moderator this morning. And I want to just kind of introduce our panelists, our esteemed panelists this morning. We've got Dr. Charles Nelms, Chancellor of North Carolina Central University, Mr. Kevin Dick, Director of the City of Durham's Office of Economic and Workforce Development. After that title, I should be allowed to just quit. Dr. Bill Ingram is the President of Durham Technical Community College, and Dr. Phil Wynn, who is, what is your title, Phil, again today?
Vice President for Durham and Regional Affairs.
That's right, and many other functions. But I was asked to give just a few ground rules. One is if you have your mobile phone, just ask you put it on vibrate. If you feel like you must return an email, please do so, but please don't shout and gesticate if you just won the lottery for $1 million. And I would like to say we're going to have the panelists going to ask them a series of questions. Then afterwards, open the panel up to questions from the from our attendees here this morning. So if you hear something that really intrigues you, feel free to ask questions afterwards. So just like to say that. I'm just going to kind of go through and just introduce our panelists to a little bit more detail. With these panelists, it's hard to have a succinct intro. All these gentlemen have had a wonderful history and work career, and very important to our community. Dr. Charles Nelms is the Chief Executive of North Carolina Central University and has been the Chancellor since 2007. Dr. Nelms is truly committed to student success and achievement. 2 years after his arrival, the U.S. News and World Report ranked NCCU as the best public historically black college or university, HBCU, in the country. And Charlie, as I remember, you've continued that tradition since that first proclamation. It's been a wonderful record under Dr. Nelms' leadership. Before coming to North Carolina Central, Dr. Nelms served as the Vice President for Institutional Development and Student Affairs for the Indiana University System. And in 2001, Time Magazine named IU's Bloomington campus the #1 student-centered research university in the nation. Many of the programs cited by Time were under Dr. Nelms' oversight and direction. And it's a truly remarkable record that Dr. Nelms had at Indiana University. A native of Crawfordsville, Arkansas, Dr. Nelms majored in agronomy and chemistry at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Graduated in 1968. He later earned a master's degree in higher education and student affairs in 1971 and a doctoral degree in higher education administration in 1977 from Indiana University. Just like to say that Dr. Nelms was awarded the President's Medal from the University of Michigan and from Indiana University and the state of Indiana's Sagamore at the Wabash for the highest civilian award. This is the highest civilian award bestowed by the governor. So Dr. Nelms has certainly had a tremendous record, at least up north. It's important. Dr. Nelms, I'm reading kind of a long bio, primarily because
It's just say, here's Charlie. That's fine.
well, that's true, but it's particularly applicable to this session. I thought about that because you are a very humble man, but Dr. Nelms has emphasized student success and measures to achieve it at North Carolina Central University. He enhanced the intellectual climate and repurposed the University College to provide academic support and skills training for underprepared freshmen and sophomores, an effort that has led to significant increases in retention and graduation rates at NCCU. In April 2010, a report by the Southern Regional Education Board identified the university as one of the top 15 universities in the country that admit high percentages of students who face economic and academic challenges and find ways to graduate many of these students on time, which is quite an accomplishment. I'd like to say that Dr. Nelms has also written a book titled Start Where You Find Yourself, Lessons Taught and Lessons Learned. I should probably read that. Charlie's also married to Janetta Shera Helms, and they have one son, Rashad, a graduate of the University of Michigan Law School, and his son currently serves as a policy officer for the United Nations World Food Bank food program, so quite an impressive gentleman. Off on my right, Dr. Fail Wynn was born in, and Fail, if I get this wrong, please correct me. Rewoka, Oklahoma. We all have been there, of course, at one time or another, or we dream about vacationing there. Fail earned his undergraduate degree from the University of Oklahoma, which I tell you, if you know Phil, he always is happy to tell you that. In 1969, he served in the United States Army from 1969 to 1975, where he was an officer serving with the 82nd Airborne Division and later assigned to the former John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center at Fort Bragg. His Army career included a one-year combat tour in the Republic of Vietnam, and during that time frame, that was not a peaceful period. During his second tour at Fort Bragg, he enrolled as a part-time graduate student at North Carolina State University at Raleigh, where he received a master's degree from the College of Education and Psychology in 1974. From here, Dr. Wynn Fail continued his educational programs endeavors. He went on to earn a master's degree from the College of Education and Psychology at NC State, a doctorate from the College of Education and Psychology at NC State, and a master's of business administration from the Keenan Flagler School of Business at the University of North Carolina. So he's been spreading his prowess around in the community. Dr. Wynn served as the president. And at Durham Technical Community College, Dr. Wynn kind of matriculated there and served as the assistant to the president and vice president, support services at Durham Technical Institute, now Durham Technical Community College. Before being appointed president of Durham Tech, he was the first African-American community college president in the North Carolina Community College system, which is quite an accomplishment, particularly at that time. After his appointment as president, many innovations were implemented to enhance accessibility of all educational opportunities offered by Durham Technical Community College. As a result, the college serves more than 25,000 area residents each year through a variety of credit and non-credit offerings. In addition, Durham Technical Community College has been a leader in providing training and instruction in various high-tech areas and has provided customized training for programs for most of the firms in RTP. He retired as the president of Durham Tech at the end of 2007 and was later named president emeritus by the Board of Trustees. Dr. Wynn was then hired by Duke University to serve as the vice president for Durham and regional affairs since 2008, so he has had quite a record. I would read off his community activities, but it's so long, we would be here way past noon, so I'm just going to suffice it to say that Dr. Wynn, like many of our panelists, are deeply involved in our community. I'm going to introduce Dr. Bill Ingram. Dr. Bill Ingram came to Durham Technical Community College in 1983, a long time ago, and served as the continuing education director and dean of the college's technical and vocational programs before being named vice president at the college. He has served as Durham Tech's senior vice president and chief instructional officer. He was named to that position in 1995. On January 1st, 2008, Dr. William G. Ingram became the fourth president of Durham Technical Community College and has persevered through these years of constant challenges with the state budget. Dr. Ingram holds a Bachelor of Arts in English from Ohio Wesleyan University and Master of Science and Doctor in Education degrees from North Carolina State University. Dr. Ingram is deeply involved in the education system, and it's interesting to note that he is also on the advisory board for the East Durham Children's Initiative, a broad-based community effort to provide a cradle-to-career opportunities for young people in East Durham. Bill is married, continues to be married to the former, well, I guess the former Ann Larkham, and they are the parents of 2 adult children, and they are members of St. Joseph's St. Stephen's Episcopal Church. Lastly, on my left is Kevin Dick. Kevin is currently the director of the City of Durham's Office of Economic and Workforce Development, and also serves as the executive director for the Durham Workforce Development Board, so he's very integrally involved in workforce development issues in Durham. Prior to his current role, Kevin served as the Senior Workforce Development Manager at OEWD and helped the staff and the board procure both federal and non-federal grant funds. Prior to coming to the City of Durham in 2007, Kevin was the Director of Operations for the Broward County Workforce Development Board and the greater Fort Lauderdale area. He led a staff of up to 20, and they oversaw the day-to-day operations of a $24 million workforce development board system. So Kevin has an extensive history in local government and is extensively involved in this community. So at this time, with everyone's permission, I would just kind of like to launch into some questions here with our panelists' approval. And I got all the panelists, correct? Great. And a lot of these questions are really involved with education, and not only what we're doing today, but how we're moving in the future. But before we launch into the questions, we wanted to give the panelists each about a few moments to describe their institution and how they're dealing with preparing students for the current workforce system. If we can start with Charlie.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you so very much for inviting me. This is my second stop this morning at the Sheridan, and I started here at about 8 o'clock, and I was the first person here, and I thought I'd gone to the wrong place, but nevertheless, I'm happy to be back. At North Carolina Central University, what we seek to do is to create a culture of student success, and that culture of student success has to manifest itself in higher levels of learning on the one hand and retaining and graduating students on the other. And I guess it was Alvin Toffler who said many years ago that the educated person of the future is the person who is capable of learning, unlearning, and relearning. The person who is capable of learning, unlearning, and relearning, which is to suggest that society and the world will change so rapidly that we need to make sure that we're not just educating people to do a single job, but we're educating people to be able to do multiple jobs in the course of a lifetime. And so just conceptually, that is a very important piece of what we do. And obviously, we're in the business of providing 4-year as well as master's degree level education. Now, having said that, one of the things that we know about education is that if you succeed in obtaining even 1 semester or 2 semesters or 3 semesters of a college education and not earn a degree, your quality of life, your earning capacity, all of those things are enhanced. So there is this direct kind of correlation between education and the quality of one's life, okay? We do offer some online education, some programs where we've been able to work with community-based agencies. One is in hospitality management and tourism. So while we provide degree programs, we do offer some education, not nearly as much as you will find at Durham Technical Community College, for example. But one of the things that we are seeking to do is to form a closer working relationship with Durham Tech and the other community colleges in North Carolina, such that we will be able to create a seamless kind of flow of students from one sector to the other. But also what we're pushing to do, and some of my colleagues are not as enthusiastic about this as I am, and that is we have to be able to facilitate the stopping in and the stopping out. It used to be that a student would commence college and would graduate 4 years or 5 years later. Now we measure a baccalaureate degree success in 6-year terms. And what I'm arguing and pushing for is that we need to be able to facilitate the stopping in and the stopping out. This year, over 40% of the people who earned bachelor's degrees, not just at North Carolina Central University, but nationally, had attended 2 or more colleges, okay? Many of those students will have taken online courses, community college courses, so this whole notion of a university, okay, is sort of being turned on its head. Witness University of Phoenix, Strayer, and so on and so forth. And so what we're trying to do at North Carolina Central University is to make sure that we can serve people in a contemporary kind of environment. I'd be more than happy to respond to specific questions.
Well, I would say from the standpoint of the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, and if you all don't mind, I'm going to say OEWD from here on in. So I do work for the government. That means that I get paid sometimes to talk in initials and acronyms, but I hope to make them understandable. So OEWD, right? What our organization does, and by extension the Durham Workforce Development Board, I think to support workforce readiness can best be described, I guess, in 2 broad categories. The first is strategy, and the second is implementation. So here's the strategy part. The cornerstone of that is our convention of the Durham Workforce Development Board. That's a public and private sector represented board, currently has about 27 or 28 members. Some of the private sector companies represented are organizations you might recognize the names of: SunTrust Bank, IBM, Measurement Incorporated, just to name a few. Those are some of the private sector companies represented. Some of the public agencies, I'm proud to say that our panelists, my co-panelists this morning, have colleagues at least that are all represented on the board as well. And then some of the social service agencies, such as the Department of Social Services with Durham County, the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, and so forth. And so we convene that board and we execute the strategic plan that we have worked on with those members, and that has an objective of basically connecting businesses and job seekers in Durham. That's the most, I guess, basic way I can articulate what the objective of the strategic plan is. It is a 2-year strategic plan. It used to be 5 years. The reason we reduced it to 2 is because you might imagine, and as Dr. Nelms alluded to, the world and the economy is changing so rapidly that a 5-year strategic plan for connecting businesses and job seekers basically is obsolete by the end of year 2. So it's pretty much pointless to have a 5-year plan, so we moved to a 2-year. And what the board helps us to do is really, they help provide policy and oversight guidance to a business-driven system to connect job seekers to businesses. And I'll talk more about the whole business-driven concept later. For decades and throughout the history of workforce development, people have seen it as more of a human services system. You know, I may have a person who's out of work, who's low income, who needs to get a job. And so we need to gear all of our services toward, and how we see the provision of those services toward the job seeker. The legislation and the mantra in which we operate under now has changed all of that. And it's flipped it and said the business needs to be your primary customer. That doesn't mean that you forsake or forget the needs of a job seeker. But what it does mean is that if you're going to make individuals workforce ready, you need to know what businesses need. You need to know what the qualifications are and the requirements are of business, and how a person not only has the occupational skills that would enable he or she to succeed at a particular company or organization, but to know what the job keeping skills are that are going to keep them on that job for a period of time that would enable a person to be able to have livable wages and feed their families and get good benefits. So the board helps us to provide a strategy and a framework in which to connect businesses to job seekers. Another way, I mentioned implementation, and implementation has 2 components. First of all, we help oversee the administration of the Durham JobLink career system. Durham is one of 24 workforce development areas throughout the state of North Carolina. And fortunately, and I say thanks for this every day, we are a single county workforce development system. Many of you may know there's 100 counties in North Carolina. There's 24 workforce development areas. That means by nature that the system has to be regional and that some areas have multiple counties and multiple city councils and multiple county commissions and multiple jurisdictional authorities that to which they need to adhere. So I'm happy to be able to just have to really please just two, the city and county. But with the implementation part, as it relates to the JobLink career system, as I said, we're one of 24, and basically what that means is that JobLink career system mainly uses federal funding to meet the needs of Durham County residents. So our department is Economic and Workforce Development. I have two hats. I handle economic development for the city, but workforce development for the county, which brings definitely some interesting nuances to the job. But it's good in that realm. And so we help oversee the administration of the JobLink Career Center system, and basically that's designed on a federal framework as a one-stop system to provide career counseling, job search assistance, access to occupational skills training, and pleased to say again that my colleagues, mostly Durham Technical Community College and North Carolina Central, are two of the largest training providers that we fund on an annual basis on a very business-driven but customer-centered philosophy. That means that each and every job seeker that comes into the JobLink career system who is looking for training opportunities is going to be assessed to find out what makes them tick, what makes them operate, what kinds of job opportunities that they are probably most suitable for based upon their personality, their skills and interests, and so forth. And then we try to connect them to those opportunities. So that's part of the implementation part. And finally, we just use partnerships with different aspects of the community to connect specific population groups that we have a federal mandate to serve. And those are unemployed and underemployed adults, laid-off workers, and low-income youth. So these are the general ways that we support workforce readiness, and hopefully throughout the course of the discussion, if required, I'll go into more detail about some of the ways we help make that happen.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Well, Durham Tech is now in its 50th year, and since its inception, since we were formed in 1961, is when our